Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Stan Wirth in with us today, 228-5923. If you have a question for the Mayor today, another warm day. Mayor, how you liking this?
I like it better than 10 below, so
it's all relative,
I'm just fine with it.
Yeah. We'll be complaining about how cold it is in about 6 months or so. And
probably will.
So, but it is summer, and we've seen the temperatures in the 90s and 80s and up there, and I guess it's good for water and electric sales usually. But that's
I think that we've seen an uptick in that certainly because of the dryness that we have. So our water sales are up, and as hot as it is, the air conditioners are working overtime. So electricity is being consumed. What's really nice about it is that we have set into place a structure where we are able to get the best deal possible on a regular basis. The price actually sets every 5 minutes. So we take advantage of that, and we have an expert consulting company that watches that for us regularly and buys power when the price is right. And we're hoping we can save ratepayers as much money as we can.
Since that transfer is complete now regarding wholesale suppliers from calendar year, is that something you plan to, say, at the end of this next year, go back and take a look at, here's what we spent, here's what we would have spent if we were totally on the other wholesale supplier?
Absolutely. We're going to watch that really closely, and that will be a subsequent conversation that we have on the radio when we get those numbers and just do some comparisons. But at this point, we're showing that we're saving a considerable amount of money where our electrical power is coming from today.
Okay. Well, you have some projects in the city that have been finished up here just recently. I know there was on the consent agenda of the council Monday night payments regarding Prairie Avenue. There was an alley near Garfield Street where redid that, and then also Sargent Street.
Sargent Street, there was just a small...
Where they've kind of dug that out now. It looks like,
right.
They're going to start that business there eventually?
They are, and that, I'm not sure exactly what the completion date for that new business is going to be, but obviously the dirt work is finished. They've laid some blacktop on Sargent Street just east of Highway 77, and that project is completed. We announced that we will set as a Board of Equalization at our next meeting on August the 15th, and that there will be a public hearing, and then that equalization period needs to stay open, or that public hearing needs to stay open for an hour as we take care of some of the other business. And if there isn't any concerns or comments, then we will go ahead and close that hearing and go ahead and do the assessment to the property owners who actually have agreed to it. And so we'll just move on.
And that's on the Prairie Avenue and the Garfield Street.
That is correct.
Project. Okay, yeah. Sometimes those are, you don't see that too often, that you see property owners actually come up and request that they want paving and agree to pay for it. It's kind of, I know you always kind of had a street program before where you take various streets that need resurfacing, but this is a little bit unusual.
Well, Prairie Avenue and then the alley, I think it was between Garfield and Arthur Street. Both of them were gravel, and the folks just decided that they didn't want any more of the dust anymore, and so they agreed to asphalt it and came to the city actually and asked us if we would accommodate them, and we did.
And I think that Prairie Avenue project, if I remember, completes. It was kind of a 2-block thing.
That is correct.
One was done before, and this is the second one.
That is correct.
So it's done. A couple of things going on this week. 13th Street, that's out kind of in your neighborhood there. That's closed for today. They're doing a little bit of soil testing there, boring.
That street's going to be completed or redone next year, but they're doing the boring. The engineering department, Barry Easley's been out there now for several days, marking the sidewalks and marking the concrete and some lawns of where different utilities are at this point, but they'll start the boring process to determine what that base of that street actually is. We've had issues with that street for numerous years where it settles, and once it settles, then it compromises the concrete and breaks it up. And so we're going to once and for all try to get a good read as to what that base is, and then determine what we're going to have to put down to make that street something that continues to be a good street for a long, long time.
Would that stay concrete, or would you go to asphalt on that?
It will be
Okay,
concrete.
I see.
Yep.
Okay. The other one was, and I wasn't aware of this one until I saw your city website, the street department closing part of Washington Street. A little bit of an unusual thing you don't see too often, a sinkhole.
Yeah, I
there.
think that's between 9th and 10th Street, if I'm not mistaken. And I didn't drive by there. I don't know what it looks like, but I did hear about it, and they'll get it taken care of.
No, a few years back, Wymore had a significant one in a street that was kind of on the
Right.
east side of town. That was a much bigger problem where
Right.
I think a sewer maybe either collapsed or something collapsed away.
Does
And,
happen.
yeah, every once in a while. You see those big ones in Florida where they're swallowing cars or whatever. We don't want that
Don't
kind
want
of
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smaller ones are nice. So one thing you spoke about before we went on the air today, you have a project coming up, water distribution line, and took bids on that. And got a half dozen bids for that project?
And that was good. The water main project that we're referring to is the redundant transmission line at the land that the city purchased with the help of the Department of Environmental Quality, who allowed us to borrow a little over $7 million at 0% interest, purchase some land, and that water transmission line will be a redundant line tied into our present wellfield line. Right now, we only have one line coming into the city of Beatrice from the city's well fields. We felt it necessary, and the timing was right because of the availability of these funds, to go ahead and put another line together. The engineer's estimate was $2.8 million, and the low bid came in at $2.3 million. I think the high bid was like $3.1, and that work could conceivably start yet this fall. Matter of fact, I think the contractor wants to start this fall, and it will take about a year to complete.
I think the order was, first of all, you did some generator work, I think, and then this.
Correct.
And then after that, some water main replacement in the downtown?
In the downtown
some
area
other
from about
projects?
4th Street to 16th Street. So that'll be a major project. But again, we have discussed with the water department to do a boring underneath the street as opposed to tearing up the street. That will allow traffic to flow as smoothly as possible.
I think this summer, one other water main project has been in progress, I think in the east or northeast part of the
That would be
city,
on
and,
18th Street,
so- and,
Doug. And
I can't remember how that's coming, if that's getting close to being wrapped up or...
and I think I just received an update on that, if you would bear
Sure.
with me just for a moment. North 18th water main has been bored in, and we'll be doing the fire hydrants and making the connections, and then flush, pressure test, and bacteria test before they start hooking over into the individual water services.
see.
So that's coming along really well.
All right, that message from Water Superintendent Steve Kelly, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Guys, they stay on top of things.
He
don't
keeps me updated, too.
Yeah. Well, it's that time of year when you see a lot of public works projects going on. And, one thing that came to mind with this high heat and everything, I know in the past, sometimes heat causes some problems regarding concrete, asphalt, breakage, things heaving or whatever. Sometimes it, more in the wintertime, I think, with water lines and things. But have you faced very many problems heat-related this year?
Really not too many.
Yeah.
We've had a few water breaks, but it's been really minimal. And so that's good. Now, the drier it gets, who knows?
Yeah.
We just kind of keep our fingers crossed and hope that it doesn't happen.
Okay.
The other water project, obviously, is the North Water Tower. And that work has started. They're pressure washing the water tower as we speak. And then they will drain the water tower at some period in time, probably next week, and then they'll start painting right after that.
Sometimes that gets a little dusty around it. Does that register any complaints at times from neighbors in the region? Or
It's done every 5 years, so
Yeah.
5 years ago has gone by, and I can't remember if we had any complaints 5 years ago or not, but we hope not.
Yeah. With the repainting of that too, you're going to put the two logos on the different sides
correct.
of the tower up there. So that'll
Yep.
be kind of neat to see how that comes
Yeah,
out.
other communities are doing something very similar, and I think that is kind of a nice public addition to feel a little pride in your community when you see your logo. If you look at the tower at York, Nebraska, that one is about as awesome as I've seen for a water tower.
It's like a big air balloon.
It
hot air
does,
balloon,
and
so.
everybody knows it's a water tower, but it's kind of disguised as something else.
Yeah. In this case, you still have the word Beatrice on two sides, and then the
That
other
is correct.
sides you pick up
Have
the
the
logo.
logo.
So there,
Yeah.
okay. 228-5923 on Ask the Mayor today if you have a question for Mayor Stan Wirth. You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Stan Wirth today. Periodically on the council meeting, it's an overall interest by the public probably isn't all that high, but you make adjustments to ordinances once in a while, amendments to various ones. You had a slew of them on the council agenda for
Sure.
Monday night. Maybe talk about a little bit about the process of that, reviewing what you have on the books and kind of what you're trying to accomplish when you go back and you may find something that isn't quite up to today's standards or
Correct.
something or things
So
like that.
what we did with our new city attorney, Taylor Rivera, was charged him with going through city ordinances, taking a look at them, making sure that what we're doing today corresponds with the ordinance or the ordinance corresponds with what we're doing today. And there are some miscues from time to time, so this is an effort to try to tighten up the language, try to make sure that everything makes sense as it once did when those ordinances were originally passed. And we'll even find typos. And if you have a typo, then the definition of that ordinance becomes just a little bit skewed. So it's more of a take a look, make sure that we're doing everything correctly. Those that we see issues with comes before the city council. Those that really don't need to have any kind of modifications whatsoever stay the same.
A lot of the changes seem to result from just changes in state law, too. You have to update things from time to
That is
time because
absolutely
the
correct.
body of higher up the chain makes a change that affects you.
It certainly does, and we have to adhere to those changes, and we certainly do, and we want to make sure that we're on top of it.
There's always kind of two schools of thought. There are people that, hate it when you do anything with an ordinance because they see it as over-regulating somebody. On the other side, you want to make it fair for everybody so somebody's not maybe finding a loophole to do something differently, or it's kind of a balancing act, I guess, a little bit.
It is, and it's when it comes to fairness, that is, in my opinion, it should be a priority. If someone finds a loophole, like some of the ordinances that we may have on the books today that they could jump through, all of a sudden it becomes unfair to the next person. And then the response is, well, what about that guy over there? Or what about that gal over there? And so, again, we're just trying to tighten things up and make sure that it's fair and equitable to everyone.
Is there a particular area that comes to mind where it's toughest to deal with, whether that's, subdivisions, whether that's junked vehicles or whatever the case may be?
I think weed ordinances, junked vehicle ordinances, these are all ordinances that we get the pushback if we've got issues with, or the individual that has those violations, they have issues with. You try to tighten those up as much as you possibly can. Look, if we don't take care of these situations, we have neighbors that are complaining all the time. We don't want that either. So it's necessary that we do whatever we possibly can to, again, make it justifiable in what we do, but at the same time be fair to all.
Sometimes a person says, hey, I comply with the ordinance. Why isn't my neighbor doing that?
That's
So
exactly
it
right.
comes down to
And
it.
so that's why we're taking a look at as many of the ordinances that we have on the books today, which are awful lot of them. But those that are surfacing especially during the summer months, weed ordinances, junk vehicle ordinances, on and on and on. We're taking a look at those right now and just tightening things up.
Monday night, the City Council approved 4 more loans from the Downtown Redevelopment Grant that the city received for a second time. Imagine you're getting pretty close to obligating the amount of money you had.
I think the total amount, Doug, if I'm not mistaken, was in the neighborhood of
120,000 or 120.
No, it was.
Oh, I mean the grant. You mean the total grant?
grant.
Yeah, I think the loans you approved Monday night were about 120,000.
That is correct.
Okay. I think the grant was 435.
435. That is correct.
So. And you had some before that, so you're getting pretty close to.
We are, and in response to your question, yeah, you're absolutely correct. We've got a few more that are out there that are still going to be brought before the City Council for approval. We did. We did Tall Tree Tastings. That is a building that is owned by Todd and Sony Heido. That is located at 122 North 5th Street, and they're going to do some repairs to the existing stucco and replace storefront windows and doors to kind of mirror what was there at one time. And then they're going to, I think, cut some additional windows in the upper floors of that particular structure. Jeff and Shelley Hubka, I think there was a $22,000 grant there approved for their building downtown, which will include some plumbing upgrades and interior carpentry work. There was also 713 Court Street, where Craig and Casey Zarbaninski are redoing a building downtown, and that's actually going to be their living quarters. They're going to bring the storefront back to kind of its original form, to put the transom windows in, doing some metal work and refinishing the storefront facade. And the other one was the building right next door at 711 Court Street. Amy Reed applied for and received $38,000 for facade repairs, masonry tuck pointing. And then they, part of it was that from a historical standpoint, that she needed to keep the sign, the polling drug sign. And so that's going to be refurbished along with doors and windows.
Yeah. You know, as you see each of these projects completed and you look at them just singularly, they're really nice. They improve the buildings and everything, but it'll be neat to see when all of these get done, how much the downtown looks differently than it did before all this work started, and how much better.
This is the third downtown revitalization grant that the city has received since about 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And Main Street Beatrice, along with the city, is going to continue to apply for these grant programs. They've been very successful. You know, for the $435,000 that we were allocated as part of a grant, we had applications from business owners in the Main Street area of over $5 million. So the need is there. The appetite is there for downtown business owners. And so we're going to continue to pursue additional grant funding. And if these repairs and upgrades are in place for 5 years, it is a true grant.
And the point being that, the owners have money in the project. It's not
There's
just
skin in the
grant money. It's not just a loan, but it does help them reduce the cost a little bit, and so that helps out.
And they have to put up collateral. They have to give us a deed of trust on the property. They have to do a personal guarantee. But again, after the 5 years, that all disappears if everything stays in place.
413 Court, any update on demolition of that? I know that's at hand pretty soon. But
starts next Monday, to be up front with you. And then I think Skyline Roofing is doing that project. The other project, where we just recently condemned the property, was on the May Street Apartments. That's been in that area for a long, long time. It's been a bit of a community eyesore for a long, long time. And City condemned it. The city is actually going to tear it down, and the owner of the building is going to pay the city back for all the demolition work.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
So we got quite a bit of improvements going on.
You know, a couple of improvements. One we talked about last week. The Runza restaurant is down. They've opened that up, and there's going to be a new building there, so that'll be a nice addition. And they're able to still conduct business through a mobile unit there. Mm-hmm. And I noticed the other day by the PEO home, the parking area there.
Yeah,
they've got that going through there.
They do, and I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that project right now, but I know that they've got that project underway. And I think it's going to be strictly a parking lot.
So that might maybe take a little of the congestion off
the street.
5th Street there, too. Okay. Coming back, we'll wrap up Ask the Mayor in a moment with Mayor Stan Wirth. Back on Ask the Mayor with Mayor Stan Wirth today. We've got about 5-6 minutes left on our program. Moved through a couple other topics here. You're not too far away from the decorative rails installation that'll happen on the South 6th Street Bridge.
South 6th Street Bridge. Been ordered. They have been built. I don't think they've been delivered yet, but that project will take place yet this year. The street department felt that the month of October would be probably the best time for them to do it, simply because all the other street repair work is winding down. And so they'll go ahead and take it upon themselves, just like they did on the Westcourt Street Bridge, to unbolt everything, put the new railing back on, and it'll be a definite improvement once that's done, because those rails that we have today just don't look very good.
Yeah, the ones on the West Court Street Bridge are really attractive. And then with the lights, the new lights in there, too, that's made it look
And that's kind of what we're going to plan for South 6th Street Bridge, too. It's just, it's another community improvement. It isn't, it doesn't add much value other than some intrinsic value. And if your community is kind of polished up just a little bit, just looks nicer.
Leaves a good impression. Everything counts in that area. Lincoln Street corridor project, we've touched on that a few times. It's yet to come before the council as far as the study on that. What's the timetable?
I think end of July. They had indicated that we would have a report. Obviously, that has come and gone. But my guess is very shortly we will have a sit down with the folks that have done their due diligence, have done the study. Hopefully we have another public meeting to discuss that, which may be at a city council meeting. But hopefully that happens really soon. Not only have they studied from 6th Street to 22nd Street, but probably going to have to extend that out with an additional study, an updated study, between 22nd Street and to 33rd Street, where the new elementary school is going to be located.
Yeah, I drove by there again the other day to see if they had started some of the bringing the dirt in for that site. That hadn't started yet on the school site, but that's going to be happening pretty soon.
Yeah, I think pretty soon. We just had a meeting this week with some of the school officials regarding bringing in some of the additional dirt. That may not happen until maybe even September. A little concerned about hauling a large amount of dirt on Scott Street, and that's I think the dirt is going to come from the Flowing Springs area, because there is additional overburden there, and we'll have to run it up Scott Street, but school's in session. So the timing during the course of the day is going to have to be right for heavy truck traffic along that. We chose that route preliminarily. We have chosen that route because I think it's 8-inch concrete on that street, as opposed to any other street that would accommodate heavy truck traffic and the turning radius that is needed for the larger trucks.
I see. Monday night, the airport's municipal airport's levy and allocation was finalized by the council for the upcoming budget year. But the main thing I want to talk about a little bit is your airport manager, Diana Smith, who has been here more than 5 decades with the airport.
51 years, and I think she
22,
calculated it's more like 52 years, and 22 years as the airport authority person in charge. And Diana has been a staple for the Beatrice Airport for a long, long time. Everybody knows her. Was successful, I think, in a couple of years ago, getting the designation of the finest airport in the state of Nebraska for the community size. So that all takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of dedication to the trade.
She took over when Don Fitzwater had retired as airport manager.
Yeah.
And she'll go through August and then call it quits and make it a retirement. But, the thing about the airport, too, and we just have a minute left, but just to comment on it a little bit, people maybe equate it more with just people who have planes and pleasure flying, but it does a lot of business. It
does a
brings
lot
in
of business.
Yeah.
They sell an awful lot of jet fuel and brings quite a bit of revenue in for the city of Beatrice and quite a bit of revenue for the state of Nebraska because of the taxes that are on that fuel. But absolutely is a gem for our community and something that we can certainly be proud of.
Next couple of weeks, we need to have Diana in here. So if Diana, you're listening, we're kind of giving you a little
Prepare
heads
yourself.
up. It would be nice to have her in and just give credit where credit is due for her leadership over these years. And
Absolutely. We'll have a conversation with her, and we'll see if we can't.
And you look at other towns, it is one of the nicer airports
I would
around
agree.
for a size, the city of Beatrice. So, Mayor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate you coming in today again.
See you next week, Doug.
You bet.